So guys, welcome to a brand new news roundup video, and I have got quite a bit to catch up on because I haven't done a news roundup in just over a week or so.
What have I done?
It's because I was busy last week. I had my 30th birthday, that knocked a day or two off, then Joker 2 didn't get an early screening, so I had to see it on a day. Long story short, I've got news to catch up on, and I'm filming this a couple of days before you're seeing it, so if I have a future Boba appearance in this with some brand new news, that's probably gonna happen because it's just my luck that there will be more to talk about. What did I tell you? What did I tell you? Here I am, a couple of days after filming the previous news roundup stories that you're going to get in this video. And we have the casting for John Stewart. So from Gunn here, welcome to DC, Aaron Pierre. After a long and grueling series of auditions, I am absolutely sure we've found an incredible John Stewart. So we're going to dive into this. Dig into a couple of other things that have dropped since the other recordings you're going to see in this video. I know this particular news roundup is all over the place, and we will be getting back to normal next week. I swear to God. But seriously, I'm really happy with this. So from Deadline, that's the article that Gunn linked here. Aaron Pierre, he is set to play John Stewart opposite Hal Jordan, a role Kyle Chandler has been in negotiations for and expected to close. And now future sick version of Boba here. We've also had Kyle Chandler confirmed as Hal Jordan, with James Gunn saying, "You've been asking for a while." Well, now, and just now, it's official. Welcome to the DCU, Kyle Chandler. Hal Jordan. So this is something we basically already knew. It's just that perhaps the deal wasn't fully signed, if you will, until they found their John Stewart as well. But they basically already knew when it came to Hal Jordan, as we've known for the past few weeks, really, that Kyle Chandler was their pick. But now it's all gone through. I don't have too much else to add on this on top of what I've already said before about Kyle Chandler. So back to past Boba with everything else, Lanterns, that I've got to talk about. So as Deadline point out here, it's been a part of an extensive search. Now, I said in that video covering that I would have been personally very happy with whoever got the role here because Stephan James was brilliant for it. Aaron Pierre seemed to be what most people were leaning to. You know what? I don't know if I would quite call it split, but I was seeing praise or like desires to have each actor cast as the role. So it really did seem like most people were happy with the front runners for John Stewart. And this kind of goes without saying, I am really excited to see the dynamic between Aaron Pierre and Kyle Chandler, just the Lantern legend veteran that Hal Jordan's going to be in this world, investigating this murder in the American heartland that leads to this, uncovering of an ancient terrifying mystery that also ties into their larger story in the DCU, but with a fresh-faced Green Lantern being John Stewart. Sure, he could have been a Lantern for like a year or two. That's the kind of details we don't know, but the idea is that he is more rookie-ish than, compared to Kyle Chandler's Hal Jordan, because Kyle Chandler is 59 years old, even though you can't guarantee that Hal will be 59. He could be like 52. But my reaction here is just going to be brief. We've got the casting, great. I would have been happy either way. I really see Aaron Pierre in the Green Lantern suit, and I really do imagine him in the DCU alongside other heroes like David Corenswet, Superman. But I needed to pair this in with some other things that we've learned recently in how Apocalyptic Horseman, who writes on behalf of Nexus Point News, and they've got really accurate scoops in the past, and I completely back them. But it was rumored that Kelly MacDonald had been offered one of the female leads in Lanterns quite a few days ago now. Apparently she will portray the town's sheriff and Hal's love interest. It is uncertain if the role is an original character or Carol Ferris. Now, with the casting coming out today, which you guys are going to see this video the day after, and that's just because I'm away this weekend, as I've said, probably at some point in this video, so I didn't want to leave a massive gap, so apologies for getting this video out the day after the casting. But anyway, today, Apocalyptic Horseman has updated this saying, so this rumor is actually true, and she is in talks now. Lots of people are wondering who this is going to be, thinking, could it be Carol as
as mentioned, because that is indeed Hal's love interest, and that is supposedly the role of her character in this show, a town sheriff. Now, town sheriff makes one think, okay, with this true detective murder mystery inspired kind of show, Lanterns, Hal and John Stewart will be going to this town where they encounter this town sheriff played by Kelly MacDonald. That really makes sense in my mind with this rumor. But the aspect of Hal's love interest is very intriguing when you kind of look at which road is it going to go down. It could even be such that, for example, Hal Jordan did have his love interest, Carol Ferris, way in the past, but since he's been a Green Lantern for decades and decades and decades, what if he lost Carol for some reason or another, maybe due to illness, maybe even in the past few years? And this could even contribute to Kyle Chandler's take on the character, and where I'm not saying it's going to be like dark and like moody all the time, but maybe this version of Hal, on top of being a Lantern legend, very experienced superhero in the DCU, he's a bit more worn down. This is why it's so evident as well in the grand scheme of things that the main Green Lantern will be the younger John Stewart, played by Aaron Pierre. But getting back on point here, maybe he's a bit rough around the edges in the wake of Carol's death, even if it was up to 5 years ago. But that doesn't discount him getting close in the middle of a murder investigation that really pertains to something much darker and deeper and terrifying, as teased by James Gunn, maybe growing closer to this town sheriff that they're going to interact with and liaise with. I think that would make sense. Like, again, these are Green Lanterns going on this investigation, but they're going to have to liaise with other people, such as this town sheriff. This is total speculation, by the way. I'm just trying to shoot out ideas. That could be an interesting thing to explore for Hal if, with the fact we know this Hal is much further into his career, I don't think this theory of mine is completely out of this universe, thinking, okay, but what if he's lost Carol? But then they're going to add in an interesting dynamic in where he's a bit conflicted, maybe getting closer to this town sheriff, because apparently it's being reported, yet rumored, so grain of salt, that she is a love interest. I don't know, maybe that could happen, but maybe their romance never really comes to fruition fully because Hal, let's just say, maybe dies at the end of the show or the finale. But he might not, by the way. But again, as adaptations don't copy and paste, what if Hal literally does get to know Carol much, much later in life? And it's kind of true to the source material in the sense that she meets Hal Jordan, Kyle Chandler, in his investigation mode, in where I've talked about before, he might not always be wearing the Green Lantern suit. But then she also interacts with Hal Jordan suited up, but she doesn't know that the man she's falling for as the town sheriff, liaising with this investigator, is that Green Lantern. And that is kind of what happens with Carol Ferris and Hal Jordan in the comics. So, yep, I know I blurted out a bunch of ideas there, but I am very, very intrigued to see if she is going to be an original character or actually Carol. Now, before Past Boba gets into some other things, I just wanted to chuck some artwork up on screen to help visualize these characters even more from 21x4, just showing how you have Kyle Chandler there in a Green Lantern suit, yet maybe his daily investigation attire. And I wouldn't mind that, even though I know the DC will be a lot more comic book fantastical campy, so some people might want to see them literally walk around in broad daylight, go into a town in the Green Lantern suit constantly. I do think they will still apply the approach of suiting up when the situation arises through their Green Lantern rings, but walking around in something like this. And I think that this, image and vision of Kyle Chandler really looks awesome. We also have some other artists like John Regan giving us a look at what Aaron Pierre could look like. So I am so anticipating. I mean, you guys know it's literally my most anticipated show in the DCU as it currently stands. Now, future Boba will pop up again, I think, later on, given what else James Gunn teased with regards to a mystery character. But for now, let's get into some other DCU news, which I've not talked about, and some of it is freaking awesome. Let's go over some of the bigger stuff, as well as some recent developments in the DCU Superman, possibly some stuff to get really excited about. But this first story is super interesting, and I know a lot of you have wanted to know my thoughts about it, and that surrounds From this article from Deadline, exclusive, here's a really cool project that just got greenlit at DC Studios, Warner Brothers Pictures Animation Dynamic Duo. It will mark the first joint project between DC Studios and the Bill Damashek-led WBPA. The sixth in Idaho movie, scripted by Matthew Aldrich, is being made by a new animation studio out of New Orleans named Swaybox, which is super interesting the more we get into this and the type of movie it's going to be, and in the format as well. Mintz will direct this movie, which follows the early days of Dick Grayson and Jason Todd, aka the Robins. Note, the storyline here isn't connected to Matt Reeves' Batman and the Penguin canon, but they don't rule out the DCU here, which is something I keep seeing people talking about, thinking, okay, this could be like a prequel in James Gunn's DCU. I mean, we know we're getting Brave and the Bold, and by the time we're picking up in present day with the Brave and the Bold, which is, still a couple of or so years away before we get major updates on that. Obviously, Batman has a Bat family surrounding him if Damian Wayne is coming in the picture, which he is. So some people are thinking, like, with Paradise Lost, us getting a prequel into the Amazons, Themyscira, could we be getting a prequel into Jason and Dick Grayson in this universe just through a different animated medium? Which you can argue is possible, right? Because you have animated shows like Creature Commandos, maybe Dead Man that we'll be getting eventually, the Blue Beetle animated series, and they will literally be canon to the live-action DCU. Those same actors will be reprising their roles if they do a pop-up in a live-action piece at some point in time. So just because it's not typical animation and it's a different kind of cool way of doing it, as they mention here, Swaybox uses a technology known as Momo animation, which is a cross between CGI, practical elements of stop motion, and live-action real-time performance. The result is long-form storytelling billed as visually breathtaking, dynamically expressive, and more human, and that is really cool. Like, there's so much effort being put into a project like that, and this project that brings that to life, so much artistry there. But anyway, back to my point, you technically don't have to rule that out just because it's this type of animation and stop motion and CGI and live action or whatever. You could still argue that's just the medium they're going with. However, I don't know what it is, but intuitively to me, I don't think this will be DCU canon. Even though we have Matt Reeves himself say here, I've wanted to make a film with Arthur and Swaybox for many years, and for that film to be Dynamic Duo, an incredibly special and unique Batman and Robin story for families is a dream. So he's acknowledging it's Batman and Robin. Obviously, you don't only have one Robin in there, you have Dick Grayson and Jason Todd, but interestingly as well, Variety added to their own story on this. A little bit of like a premise, like a, I guess, tentative premise for what this story could be about specifically, with them saying instead it will depict how the friendship between Grayson and Todd as youths become tested by their diverging ideas for what their future should be. So in my opinion, I think this is just them seizing an opportunity to do a film on, Dick Grayson, Jason Todd. They have different ideas in their younger days on how justice should be handled, which, is obviously leading to Dick Grayson's outlook on everything. He's Nightwing, but Jason Todd goes down the Red Hood direction. I'm sure it'll innovate on traditional canon rather than adapt it page for page for page, as I always say. So I think they just want to make a fun family movie here, one for theaters that James Gunn has confirmed at this point. And they also probably felt like this could just be a story that could be worth telling in the kind of family film, Batman and Robin and the younger Robins focused movie. And I also do feel like James Gunn, with this announcement, with him also addressing it on social media, would have said out the gate, if this was meant to be like a artistic kind of prequel to the DCU's Bat family, just focusing on Jason Todd and Dick Grayson. Do you know what I mean? Hey, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I will hold my hands up. I'm not like even totally against it being like a cool little family movie, like low-key prequel to the Jason Todd and Dick Grayson of the DCU's Batman canonical iteration, but I just feel like this is an Elseworlds kind of cool little project that they want to put in theaters. Next up with DCU Superman, ladies and gentlemen, this is very, very exciting stuff because we've had teasers for when we could be getting, maybe a little seed or two, or maybe more than that, as soon as December. Now, James Gunn did say that we wouldn't be getting a trailer this year. There is literal evidence of that out there. But David Corenswet went on the Manly Things podcast, which I think he actually helped create or produce. And DC Film News say here, David Corenswet confirmed the promo for Superman kicks off at the end of 2024 in the South Hemisphere. Brazil's CCXP is in December. Now, I watched this whole episode myself. It was quite entertaining. It's a podcast about where they get into fashion and style and things like that. And you also have David's stylist there. And I wrote down exactly what he said, and they basically do give away something that definitely indicates that something will be happening in December. So when the stylist is talking about, okay, what they're going to do and choices of what David's going to be wearing and whatnot for the Superman movie, the stylist says, I don't know if he pauses because obviously he's aware of like some future dates of when they're going to start marketing or when David would be suited and booted for an event that the stylist needs to, prepare him for. So he says, I don't know if he's probably going to say, I don't know if I can really say, but then David says, yes, some things may be as soon as the winter. And then the stylist kind of somewhat interrupts that by saying, yeah, some things might be happening in December, some things will be happening in the spring, and obviously the movie's coming out in the summer. So they literally acknowledge winter, they acknowledge December, they acknowledge the obvious other dates for when things would be ramping up, such as the spring, all in relation to the movie that is Superman. Now, what could be happening in December that would require David Corenswet to, have his, stylist buddy here to be acknowledging, okay, we need to kind of get you ready for December. And yeah, it could very well be something like CCXP, because that is an event where they do indeed reveal announcements and things like that. So maybe he might turn up to something like that where he would have a stylist for something that could be pretty big in what would mark some of the first promo for Superman. I don't want to get our expectations too high, even though James Gunn said that we wouldn't be getting a trailer this year. That doesn't mean we wouldn't get like the first I've teased, hey, how cool would it be if James Gunn, even though he said that, still gives us the first official poster for Superman on Christmas Day. That was like my, near the bottom level expectations of something maybe we could expect. But maybe there is going to be something cooler that is just around the corner. I don't want to speculate too much more beyond that. We're just going to have to wait and see. But, we literally have it right there on that podcast with them talking about some things happening in December. Maybe not something too huge, but maybe the beginning seeds. So, ladies and gentlemen, back again. James Gunn teased a new character appearing in Peacemaker, and he says, who might this be? And we see a person in the woods, sat down in front of the campfire, and loads of people are like, who is this? Like Catman? Is it like someone else? But from what I'm seeing, I do agree with those people who are saying Apache Chief, just in the sense that you can clearly tell, especially maybe if I brighten up the image here, that there's clear Native American influences with regards to, if you look at the feathers going on the arms there, the kind of hairstyle with the plaits going down. I totally see why people are saying Catman, especially I think linking it to the theories about that Deathstroke and Bane project, and where Deadline said that doesn't mean they're just the only two characters in that DCU movie, and how there could be other characters leading to a Secret Six film, and thus Catman could be like backdoor piloted, if you will, in Peacemaker Season 2. But I think just the, the feathers, the hairstyle and stuff, it just seems also very James Gunn to be like, hey, how about Apache Chief in Peacemaker Season 2? I don't see how this is Animal Man for those suggesting that, or Savant, who I'm pretty sure who died in James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. Granted, that could be a strand of canon that he could just retcon. And I can imagine Apache Chief being quite an interesting character in Peacemaker Season 2. Don't get me wrong, no idea how his character would play into it, but his ability is such that he can grow extremely tall. Kind of Ant-Man style. So, like, we're talking, like, over 40, 50 feet tall. You could argue it's Manitou Raven. But, like, I have no idea, to be honest with you, because what is the story of Peacemaker Season 2? We've had some guesses. What kind of characters could cameo in it or have a smaller supporting role, potentially like this? Maybe the Peacemaker crew need to go to him to get knowledge about something larger that is happening in the plot. But if you have any and all ideas, I'm all ears. Let me know down in the comments below as to who you think this is. Like, realistically, just going off of that image when it's brightened up on screen, and how you think it could even fit into what the heck's going on in Peacemaker Season 2. I mean, in all honesty, it could just be, and hear me out here, John Cena.
What are you showing me?
But jokes aside, let me know. And in other DCU news, Joel Kinnaman, when asked if he would return as Rick Flag Jr. in Peacemaker Season 2, that's ridiculous. I would never be on a show like that. It's not what I do. Yet we basically know he's going to be in Peacemaker Season 2. Now, if I remember, I mean, that was an obvious kind of denial, if you will, but there was like a wrap on a Peacemaker Season 2 episode, and I can't remember if it was just a crew member or like the director at the time. He tagged each person he worked with, and it was like the usual names, but there was also Joel Kinnaman. And then he removed that tag after like a day or two, which kind of gave it away. And that's going to be the situation of where you could have Peacemaker, given that Rick Flag Sr. is going to be coming into the show, trudging up the past of him killing his son, that might bring up the ghost of Rick Flag Jr. into Peacemaker's head. Plus, there could be flashback scenes with Rick Flag Sr. played by Frank Grillo, and that'd be really, really cool as well. So yeah, we're going to have to ultimately wait and see. But yeah, Joel Kinnaman's going to be in it. I'm a big fan of Joel Kinnaman's. If you haven't seen For All Mankind on Apple TV, do yourself a favor and frickin' watch it. It's a great show. Now, in other DCU-related news, we've got a little bit of an update, and I'm a bit like to and fro with this one, and it's regarding the DCU Titans movie that we learned from the Hollywood Reporter quite a while back now, and it's kind of like, people calling it like a reconfirmation, if you will, because they've put together the new Power of New York list 2024, and they detail like different writers and whatnot, and you go all the way down to Ana Nogueira, and they talk about her a little bit, saying DC Universe builder. A lot is riding on James Gunn's DC Cinematic Universe reboot, particularly after the last one imploded in spectacular fashion. Cause of death? Justice League. And to get it right, the DC Studios chief enlisted Ana Nogueira, an actress turned scribe, to write Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. The film, which Gunn describes as a science fiction epic, will debut in 2026 and pick up where his next movie, Superman, leaves off. After that, Nogueira will write a Teen Titans film. So this is the thing. We can't guarantee that this is Variety saying we know for sure outside of the Hollywood Reporter's source that we know Ana Nogueira is writing it, even though it hasn't been officially acknowledged yet to this day by James Gunn himself. They could just be re-reporting in that little kind of paragraph what the Hollywood Reporter already put out there. So what I'm trying to say at the end of this is we might still be at the same point as what we were at before. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe it is a known thing within the industry at this point. But again, James Gunn hasn't said anything. Obviously, I hope it's really true. I think it is obvious as well that there is an easy organic road to a Titans film, just in terms of how I've already gone over 1 billion times. Batman's already got a Bat family to some extent set up around him in a universe with other heroes who probably have other sidekicks. So you see where I'm going with this, to organically kind of do a offshoot Titans thing with Dick Grayson in it, leading as Nightwing maybe. Maybe Damian's going to be in it by the end of the movie, and maybe how he's calmed down a little bit. Who knows? But yeah, I hope it's happening. I'm leaning towards it being true, but just not confirmed. But time will tell. Now, in other DCU news, we have James Gunn replying to me, believe it or not. I noticed that he was replying to a few people over on Threads, so I thought, you know what? Let's ask a bit of a different question. Up to much this weekend, James? And he replied saying, well, caught up on editing notes for Superman and Creature Commandos and storyboarding this upcoming round of Peacemaker. So now I have to read some scripts I haven't gotten to, with a bit of like a, monocle investigation face there. Kind of, I guess, teasing, be like, oh, yeah, I wonder what those scripts are. So, yes, very clearly busy still on the weekend here, editing notes for Superman and Creature Commandos, still storyboarding in the upcoming round of Peacemaker that he's busy with. But now he needs to get to like, oh God, there's some scripts. And I wonder what those are, because you could be like, okay, maybe for all we know, it's like the back end of Lanterns scripts. I know like Lanterns will be filming early next year, so it must be pretty much near to finished around abouts as we get to the end of this year. But you could argue it could be for like the penultimate episode, the finale, or it could be something like Waller. It could be anything. At the end of the day, it could be an unannounced project that we have no bloody idea about. So I would love to know what you think, or what you would want him to be reading there, because I know a lot of you have desires for scripts for DCU Chapter 1. We know that there's still technically several projects yet to be announced. Obviously, as I've said, I don't think they need to be announced given how much information we need to learn about other projects. But yeah, a nice little tease there from Gunn himself to our little community here, I suppose. But Gunn did also reply to somebody else who asked, any progress on Paradise Lost or Wonder Woman? I can imagine a few drafts being sent in. And all he says here is yes. So, like, is that progress on Paradise Lost, or is it progress on Wonder Woman, or is it progress on both of them, of which the latter, I have to admit here, I would like to be true. I think kind of low-key has to be true, because yes, I think there will be progress on Paradise Lost. Dare I say it, even Brave and the Bold. Like, so, even if it's like barely any development, don't forget, it's not like they're working on one project at a time. People are cooking away on all kinds of things in the background. It's just that some are way further ahead, way further ahead than others. So yeah, Paradise Lost is one of them I absolutely expect to have had progress on. But I think progress does need to be made on Wonder Woman in some way, shape, or form. Because, she's like a huge character in DC, and we know next to nothing about her in the DCU. Now, I'm not trying to sound like entitled there. It's just we know roughly about Superman. We know quite a bit. We know roughly about Brave and the Bold and the DCU Batman. But we know next to nothing about Wonder Woman other than Gunn a long time ago now, talking about getting an animated series off the ground, of which we still have no idea if that is going forward, let alone if that was an Elseworld show or if it's like an animated canonical Wonder Woman DCU animated show. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that is everything I think for now that I'm going to sift through. So let me know your thoughts on each and every story that I covered in today's video. If there's any crazy news that's about to drop in the next few days from when you're seeing this, I might not be able to cover it because I'm just going away with the family for just a couple of days this weekend. So just do bear with me on the lack of news roundups recently, but I will be getting back to it very, very soon with the regularly scheduled programming, I guess. But if you like this video, guys, would really appreciate a like on it. Consider subscribing for more updates like this. But until next time, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.